perkenalkan dulu, nama aku Febrian. Di sini aku adalah Product Manager dari Product Domain, Email Hosting, dan EasyLink. Nah, di sini kita akan belajar banyak nih, hoster people semua, mengenai Core Web Vitals, Privacy Sandbox, atau Scikit. Di sini, pada sesi kali ini, kita nggak akan sendirian. Hoster people kita akan ditemani oleh tim Google langsung. Jadi, teman-teman akan bisa bertanya langsung kepada sumbernya langsung, seperti itu. Dan aku harap hoster people semuanya bisa memperhatikan seluruh presentasinya dengan baik, karena tadi sempat aku cek nih, presentasinya sangat menarik, dan setelah sesi webinar kali ini, aku jamin ini bakal bermanfaat banget untuk website dan bisnis hoster people semua. So, I think before wait too long, Shu, you can start.
Halo semuanya, saya bakal bicara bahasa Indonesia. Hari ini saya akan berbicara tentang privacy sandbox, membuat internet yang lebih pribadi. Seperti yang Anda ketahui, banyak browser dan platform sudah berhenti mendukung cookie pihak ketiga, third party cookies. Sekarang Google Chrome juga telah mengumumkan timeline untuk menghapus third party cookies tahun depan. Nah, kami ingin mengundang seluruh industri web untuk berkolaborasi dan membangun standar privasi internet baru melalui Privacy Sandbox. Nah, Privacy Sandbox Initiative ini bertujuan untuk membangun teknologi baru untuk menjaga pribadi informasi Anda dan juga menyediakan alat bagi perusahaan dan developers untuk membangun bisnis digital yang bakal berkembang. Next slide. Mari kita mulai dengan mengenali keadaan saat ini. Web saat ini tidak memenuhi ekspektasi privasi pengguna, bisnis, dan regulators. Kami percaya bahwa penting bagi orang untuk mengendalikan informasi mereka, termasuk aktivitas online mereka. Sebagian besar pengguna juga percaya bahwa ini penting. Dengan masalah privasi yang semakin mendorong pilihan tentang apa yang dilakukan orang secara online. Ini adalah tantangan ekosistem yang membutuhkan respons seluruh ekosistem. Next slide. Nah, kami juga melihat regulator di seluruh dunia sekarang meningkatkan persyaratan privasi dengan cepat, such as GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation di Eropa. Next slide. Masalah inti adalah pelacakan lintas situs, namanya cross-site di web. Praktik yang meluas dalam mengumpulkan dan mengaburkan data yang pengguna di seluruh situs yang tidak terkait. Saat Anda berpindah dari satu situs ke situs lainnya, misalnya meneliti topik minat pribadi, atau membandingkan belanja dan memesan bahan makanan, aktivitas Anda tidak hanya dilacak, tetapi juga dapat digabungkan dengan berbagai situs dan layanan untuk mengidentifikasi dan mengenali Anda saat menjelajahi web. Anda dapat mengontrol sebagian, tetapi metode pelacakan lainnya tidak jelas dan tidak berada dalam kendali Anda sama sekali. Nah, sebagai Google dan Chrome, kami tidak melihat ini sebagai keadaan yang sehat atau berkelanjutan. Dan sebagai ekosistem, kami juga perlu melakukan yang lebih baik. Next slide. Namun solusinya juga tidak mudah. Klik. Untuk mengakhiri pelancakan cross-site, web perlu menjauhi dari cookie pihak ketiga. Klik again. Dan teknik rahasia lainnya seperti fingerprinting atau sidik jari browser. Apa yang membuatnya lebih sulit adalah bahwa selama lebih dari 25 tahun terakhir, banyak kemampuan web inti itu juga mengandalkan teknik ini, third party cookie sama covert tracking. Next slide. Kami membutuhkan teknologi baru untuk web modern yang berfokus pada privasi, dan itulah yang ingin dicapai oleh Privacy Sandbox. Next slide. Oke, ini adalah overview. Privacy Sandbox mencoba mengubah cara data dilacak dan dibagikan pada tingkat individual di seluruh perusahaan menjadi hanya data yang dikumpulkan, dianonimkan yang tersedia untuk perusahaan. Next slide. Kami juga bekerja dengan komunitas web dan pemangku kepentingan industri untuk mengembangkan teknologi perlindungan privasi baru yang bisa mendukung ekosistem yang sehat dan berkelanjutan. Next slide. Ini termasuk API aplikasi programming interface yang dibuat khusus untuk mendukung periklanan yang merupakan bagian penting dari ekosistem dan mendanai sebagian besar konten web. Serta banyak kemampuan lain yang dibutuhkan website modern seperti deteksi penipuan, identitas, atau konten yang disesuaikan dengan alat device pengguna. Klik. Setelah API baru ini tersedia, kami akan memastikan web developers memiliki waktu untuk mengadaptasinya, sehingga kami dapat dengan aman menghentikan dukungan untuk cookie pihak ketiga di Chrome. Next slide. Sambil melanjutkan pekerjaan kami untuk mengurangi jenis pelacakan lainnya. Jadi pelacakan cross-site tidak hanya beralih dari cookie pihak ketiga ke metode yang lebih tersembunyi. Next slide. Nah, agar web terus berfungsi untuk semua orang, termasuk pengguna, penerbit, pengiklan, dan lainnya, web itu perlu mendukung model bisnis yang kuat dan pengalaman pengguna yang luar biasa. Menjadikan web pribadi, tetapi mengurangi akses ke konten yang didanai iklan atau mengurangi pengalaman pengguna yang sehat, itu tidak akan menjadi hasil yang baik bagi siapapun. Next slide. So, Privacy Sandbox ini adalah transformatif upaya seluruh ekosistem. Nomor satu, inisiatif ini tuh bakal kolaboratif yang melibatkan banyak pemangku, kepentingan, dan perspektif. Pengguna, regulator, browser, services lain seperti payments, dan CMS menawarkan proposal, solusi, atau perspektif. Nah, kedua, pendekatannya harus seimbang. Habis membatasi teknologi seperti cookie tiga pihak tanpa alternatif yang efektif, mengarah ke metode pelacakan yang lebih invasif, yang tidak disadari dan tidak dapat dikendalin orang seperti fingerprinting. Privacy Sandbox ini bakal bertujuan untuk mengatasi kedua masalah, jadi third party cookie dan fingerprinting. Nah, nomor 3 ya mungkin poin yang paling terpenting itu juga menemukan solusi yang memecahkan privasi dan ekosistem web yang berkembang di berbagai pihak yang berkepentingan memerlukan beberapa langkah dan fase. Itu bukan jalan yang lurus, ini adalah proses yang sangat umum. Teknologi juga sedang diusulkan, dibangun, diulang, didiskusikan di forum kayak W3C, W3C, and GitHub. Nah, setiap orang juga bisa berpartisipasi, mengajukan pertanyaan, dan memberikan umpan balik di W3C and GitHub. Next slide. Berikut adalah daftar proposal API, inisiatif Privacy Sandbox itu sangat luas dan mencakup banyak kasus penggunaan dan teknologi dari iklan, pengukuran iklan, hingga covert tracking yang akan dibicarakan oleh Shu tentang user agent client hints di sesi berikutnya. Over to you, Shu.
Thanks, Chrystell. Okay, now let's talk about user agent and the user agent client hints, which is one of the privacy sandbox APIs Chrystell just talked about. Okay, first of all, let me talk about user agent string. So this may be a bit confusing to begin with, but it's very, very important. So let me clarify. So as I think many of you know, user agent string is JavaScript-based technology built in browsers, including Google Chrome. So user agent string has detailed information about users, such as an OS version, hang on, OS version, where is it? Where is it? Here, yep, Android, and hardware version, it says Pixel 3, and browser version, it says Chrome here, and the browser minor version, Chrome 84.0.07, and whether it's mobile or desktop that user is accessing from. Yeah, so this information included in user agent string. So yeah, this information is included in HTTP or HTTPS request, and it's passed across the internet, including browsers, websites, and web servers, and other web infrastructure services like CDNs. However, we see some challenges in user agent string that it exposes quite a bit of information about users, which can be used for cyber crimes, like covert tracking or fingerprinting. Just Chrystell just mentioned now. So we have developed a privacy-preserving new API called user agent client hints. So this process starts next month, April, in step-by-step basis through to February 2023, next year. And instead, we have developed a new privacy API, user agent client hints, this one, to replace the user agent strings. So from this one to this one. So basically, this new API, user agent client hints, is already implemented in Google Chrome, and you can use it from today. Okay, so now let's look at it, what this new API does. So it basically serves the same purpose, but much more in privacy-preserving way. It significantly limits the amount of information to protect users' privacy. Okay, what I mean by reducing the information on user agent string, the items highlighted in green, right? You see these guys here. Yeah. For this information, you can continue to receive via user agent string. The information's rather brand, like Chrome, and its major version 84, and it also OS. It says Android here, and if it's mobile or desktop, so it says mobile here. So you can get this basic information in user agent string. Okay, so now let's look at what information will no longer be available. In the ones highlighted in red, these ones. Basically, a minor version of browser, So it says it's supposed to say Chrome 84.0.1. Something, right? But instead, it just gives 0.0.0. So no matter what the minor version is. In the same way, the OS version, it just gives you 10. So no matter what it is. So this could be Android 11 or 12, but no matter what it is, it just gives you 10. And also the hardware information. Remember, it in the previous slide it says Google Pixel 3 or 4, right? So that the device information, but instead it just gives you K. So you don't see those information anymore. And yeah, so if you need this information, you need to send a request via the new API, user agent client hints. Okay, this is another look of the comparison between user agent string and the user agent client hints. You can get the basic information, which we just looked by default, which are these information here and in the top. And if you need to get the other information, which are the minor version of browser and OS version, and the hardware information, in this example, Google Pixel 3. So if you need this information, you need to migrate to the new API, user agent client hints, because this information will be frozen, as 0.0.0 and the K, such things. So it always gives you the certain value. So no matter what it is. Okay, now let's look at the migration timeline. The new API, user agent client hints, has already been available. So it basically implemented back in March last year. And so before you migrate to user agent client hints, you can test how your website or system will work with the reduced user agent information through our API testing program called Chrome Origin Trials. So that testing is available since October last year. So yeah, so this is sort of a simulation purposes. So if you want to see what it looks like under the with a reduced amount of user agent string information, you might want to test this API. And then from April this year, which is next month, Chrome will begin reducing the user agent information. So please remember that the bits of information I just mentioned wouldn't be available by default. So the reduction will start next month through to February next year. That process will start in phased basis. So rather than just release all at once until the user agent strings is fully reduced, and that data will only be accessible via the new API, user agent client hints. We also realized that some organization may need some more time. So while that reduction is happening, we'll offer a special type of testing that reverts back to the legacy. So we are talking about the timeline. So yeah, if you want to if you want some time while reduction happening, we can offer a special type of origin trial that basically reverts back to the legacy user agent behavior. So these are the resource information, web.dev, and the GitHub explainer. So if you want to dig into the details, but it's always good to start with privacysandbox.com for high-level information to get the concept of the privacy sandbox as a whole and each of the privacy sandbox proposals. Yeah, so that was the introduction of user agent client hints. Thank you. And now I'll hand it over to Ian.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Shu. So just help me recap here, like this user agent reduction is like kind of also important, and like if you're using WordPress, you may want to check like there may be some of the plugins that actually use user agent string to help you do some of the feature like desktop mobile detection or some of the tracking. Then definitely feel free to feedback on those plugins on like WordPress forum. It will help us to involve the like, ecosystem. Yeah, so beside privacy, so this session is about like a better web. So we're going to talk about Core Web Vital. Maybe some of you have know that, some may not. So next page. So we can like step back here. So as the title of this session is Build a Better Web, Deliver the Best User Experience. So from a better web point of view, like as a user, I definitely want like the website I'm reading is like loaded fast and very smoothly, like not like jumping, and it's all about performance, right? You want your website performance is great. So that's what's also Google here, like from like a lot of like website users around the world. Therefore, we start to build this like performance initiative. Next slide, please. So for performance, I think there's like an important 3-step can further like keep in mind as you are a site owner. First is about like measure, and second is about like optimize, and third is maintain. And today's like session about Core Vital, I will mainly focus on measure because that is one of the critical like and fundamental part, and you should be like have a knowledge about what's the baseline I should measure and what should I like check after like I do some optimization. I need to follow some metric. This is what also Core Vital is about. So next page, please. So we jump to our main topic today, Core Vital. This is like we initially from Google, like we think like these 3 metrics are very important, like for a user to read a website, which is like LCP, largest countable paint, FID, first input delay, and COS, cumulative layout shape. So you can see there's like a chart below to mention like what do we like assume it's good or like need improvement. So I will go into each of the metric to quickly walk the audience through about what it's about. Next page, please. So these 3 metrics actually map toward what I mentioned, like how a user perceive your website. Like when user, no matter like get you to your website from Google search, or they just like directly type the URL on their like on their Chrome browser, the first thing is like the browser will start to load your website right from your like a WordPress server. So they need to load a lot of things like HTML, like CSS, JavaScript, or even like image video. So browser need to load like certain amounts of information. Therefore, it will start to draw something. So this is about the happening. Does user perceive like perceive your website is already like start to load something, or is it keep loading? Maybe the network is like disconnected. Is something important. And after some like some of the content on your website is like loaded, the user will start try to like interact with your website. They will try to scroll, try to click, try to enlarge, or even like if there are video players, try to click play. And our browser may need certain response time for that due to their like JavaScript or additional resource like block the browser to respond to users' interaction. So that is about responsive. And third is about like we say stability. Stability is like you may sometimes when yourself is also using like browsing a website, there will be like ads or like late loaded image which like push away the content you're reading on your website, and that is actually very interrupt like experience for a user browsing perspective. So stability is also something important we want to like highlight here. Next page. Yeah, so for LCP, largest content for paint, it's one of the metric we suggest you to follow to like measure what we mentioned about happening. So it's about like to measure from the largest section on your website loaded, how much does it take like from user accessing your website. So we expect like the largest like a portion. For example, for like a news article, image should be like the head image like on above, which it should be actually low like below 2.5 seconds. That is something we think will be like good for user. Next, please. And second is like a first input delay. So just like I mentioned about responsive, when user like touch the screen, and the browser will try to respond, and there may be certain delay. So the delay is better to like be lower than 100 millisecond. When it's like bigger than 100 or even larger than like 300 millisecond, then user will actually feel like quite laggy, a lot of latency. They will like kind of like being hesitate whether the site is like under their control to behave what they expect when they try to interact with your web page. So FID is the metric which used to measure the responsive. Next page, please. And third is like the cumulative layout shift, like as I mentioned about the stability. So the way we measure this is there's like a formula here is about the impact fraction, like times the distance fraction. So next page, there's like image. Yeah, so you can see when user try to click the like go back, actually there's like a insert prompt to push the go back away. So the impact fraction will be the above like pop and distance is like the distance they put away. So that is how we like calculate the overall like layout shift score. So it may happen like when users scroll to certain section on your web page, there will be multiple like layout shift happening there. So that's why we call it cumulative. So that's something also important you may need to be aware of your web page. Is there like you put the like add code which will like push a lot of content away, or like the image like this is something like really big, so load like often loaded fast. So we will show later about how to measure it to let you understand how your website performs. Next, please. So that's mainly the definition about core vital. Like we align with what we think about how user like perceive your website to try to format these three metrics. So we also have another like a metric called page experience. So page experience is something more like from our search perspective. Under page experience, beside core vital, we think it's important because that means that when user click from search onto your web page, that will be something perception. There are also some of the metric we're caring for, like page experience, which is mobile friendly, safe browsing, HTTPS, and no intrusive interstitials. So these are all the important factor we think is important for you to keep aware of, like from building a better way perspective, because like these will all affect how user experience your website. So these are the things like we keep thinking important, and we like consolidate as a page experience. Next page, please. So like starting like early last year, like which is like 2021, we mentioned that we enroll like the page, we rolling the page experience out. So page experience is actually one of your like ranking factor for your like mobile site. And we see really like a good progress for the overall web ecosystem. We see like a website, big website, or like small website. People are aware of like, okay, they need to improve their performance, or we say they need to improve their core vital. So they start to like do some optimization, or like use some plugin, or even they remove some plugin which is like redundant and will slow down their web performance. So the great news here is like also starting this year. Actually, it's like for now we start to roll out the page experience on our desktop ranking system too. So we're in the process of that. It should be end like around like this month. So you can see here like a table to indicate like for mobile and for desktop, like what we care like under page experience. I think it's quite obvious, like beside mobile friendliness, because that is one factor, especially for mobile. The rest is actually the same. So that means like improving your overall web performance, or improving the core vital of your site is important to for our site to measure your page's user experience. Next page. And like it's actually quite transparent. Like it's easy from your end as a site owner to overview like what is your site performance, or we say what's your page experience. You can go to your search console. You can see here like we will tell you like how many percentage of the URL we index is actually having like a good, or like good like page core vital score, according to we just share about like the, for example, LCP 2.5 second. And for now we'll also have like a desktop like charts, which also indicate you like how many percentage of your index URL is like a passing core vital. So passing here means like passing here actually means like you need to have like three from core vital perspective, you need to have the three like metrics, LCP, FID, and COS, like both of them falls into the good section for each URL. That is the way we will mark it as a good. Yeah, so this is a way you start to understand your website performance from your search console. Next, please. So you can start to understand your like page experience, or we say core vital from your search console, and later on like you can do a more like a deeper audit using like one of our another tool, which is like PageD Insight. So from PageD Insight, you can understand like from a origin point of view, or from a domain point of view, like your overall site performance distribution. But you can also like test like a single URL here, like both showing like the field and lab data. So the left side is the field data, and the right hand side is the lab data. And lab data is more like we help you to simulate one time loading your website, and see like for each like metric how did it perform. And especially under like the lab data, the section below, there will be some additional like suggestion, tell you like, okay, so for example, you have like a bad LCP here, which is like XD like 6 seconds, and it's because like you have a really large image. You may need to like optimize that image size, because like from a mobile point of view, you don't need like certain size of image. So that is a good starting point for you to think of, okay, so what do I need to optimize first? Should be like a image, or JavaScript, CSS, and that's also the time you can go back to check all your plugins, like whether some of my plugin is helping to optimize like image, or like CSS, or even like there is some like too much plugin, like that means there'll be like too much like module or JavaScript loaded when your like website is rendered on users like browsers, so you may need to remove some. So these are kind of like a best practice we would suggest you to start with. Next, please. Yeah, so just quickly share about, like I mentioned, about lab and field. So field is more like we try to collect like overall user experience your website. like which is like based on users on Chrome, and we like accumulated the distribution. So this is like the real past experience, user experience collection we help to put together. But it's actually hard to like really do some real time like affecting real data like fix or optimization. Therefore, I show you about like lab data, which is like on page 3 insight, which is a place like help you to do a one-off like user simulating testing. From there, you can start to fix bit by bit. Therefore, you may able to see, okay, so I fix three stuff. For example, I fix optimize image, I decrease JavaScript, and on my like next month of the field data, does it really reflect to like the overall user experience distribution by a certain amount? This is a way we suggest you to follow, and that's why we segment this two kind of data. Next, please. So besides like there's like a bunch of like plugins on WordPress you can definitely leverage for like the speed optimization, or we say performance optimization. From Google, we also try to like build a new initiative here. We call this like the performance lab. So this like a plugin is like help to optimize your overall WordPress site plugin fundamentally. So there are features like do WebP uploads, or feature like to help you to check whether you're using the right like cache strategy, or more like from your web homepage, like does it enqueue a lot more like JavaScript and CSS, which is like redundant, can be deferred or async. So this is a quite really like a beta and early like plugin. Feel free to try it and leave us feedback on the WordPress forum, or like there's like a GitHub repository for our developer to share of us like from this plugin, like how can we help to improve your overall site performance by using a WordPress like methodology. Okay, next page, please. Yeah, so that's mainly about like core vital like and performance today. So besides like I mentioned about, you can use like Search Console to measure your performance. Later, like RPM Mariya will also share about Scikit, which is a more like efficient tool which can also measure like besides performance, also some more about your sites data, which will help you more efficient to build up better sites. So I'll pass the mic to Mariya.
Thanks, Ian. I hope everybody can hear me. Great. Cool. So I'm pretty excited to talk to you about this, especially because I know that it is part of the Niagahoster solution. It's available to everybody who is a customer. And we have built it to help people improve their WordPress sites and to grow on the web, get more traffic, more customers. So I want to talk about what you can do exactly today using our tools in order to have either a more successful site of your own, or if you have customers that you build websites for, how to help them understand how their website is doing and how to succeed. So the biggest question on the next slide that we see people ask themselves the most is if you know whether your website is working for you. And on the one hand, this is a very simple question. On the other hand, the more we talk to people, the more we find out that actually the answer to this is very personal, very different based on the website. And today I want to show you 4 things, how you can break down this question and figure out the answer to it. And then we'll look at an example and hopefully also get the chance to do a demo with so the first thing to do on the next slide that you need to start with in order to understand whether you have a successful site or not is to figure out how your online metrics are translating to your offline metrics. So on the next slide are some prompts for that. First of all, everybody who has a business knows already what their goals are in the offline world. I remember when I was in Indonesia, I saw that there are many delicious things to try, and we were ordering a lot of stuff to be delivered. I still fondly remember eating martabak. So maybe you have like a shop which is delivering this online and you want to sell more of them. Or maybe you have a blog which you write about different posts, and then you want to have more visitors coming and returning. So there are different metrics that you can look at in order to translate what you're trying to achieve offline to what your site is showing you online. And then you know, is this website that I'm investing time and money in actually helping me achieve my goals? So in the case of a blog, you probably want to have more readers and more, what's more important, more engaged readers, people who come to different pages, read more articles, maybe comment on different articles. So this is, for example, achieved online by measuring how much on average people spend on each page or on your site overall. So the more time they spend, obviously, the more engaged they are, and also if they are returning visitors or not. And if you have a shop, you obviously want to sell stuff. So there you would look at things like cart completions. So on the next slide, once you have translated your offline metrics to your online metrics, what you need to do is to figure out what kind of tools you actually want to use in order to measure them. And here there's a wide range of things that you can use. There's paid tools and free tools. There's kind of advanced tools that you can consume the data via API, and then there's more high-level tools that you can just see at a glance. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve, or maybe if you're building for a customer, you want to give them a simple overview. But if you are like a more advanced developer or a site manager, then you want more detailed stats. So here you have to look at, are these tools reliable? Are they showing you the full picture? Is this data directly from them, or are they getting it from somewhere else and kind of recycling it? So all of these factor in here, and then hopefully after you figure out what's important to you, you will then pick a set of tools that you will use for your site or for your customer sites. And once you have that, on the next slide, the next step, which we see people missing out the most and is really critical, is actually to establish a baseline. So you can't know if you are improving or not improving on your site if you don't know how your site is doing if you're not touching anything. So this is what it means to establish a baseline. Just look at it as it is right now and see, you know, how much traffic am I getting? How many sales am I making? How many people are coming to my site? Over time, if I'm not touching anything. And this is then your baseline. And from there, you can try to improve over time. But if you don't have this number to compare, you'll just be seeing some numbers, but then you wouldn't really know, is this good? Is this bad? Is this a result of my efforts, or am I just getting lucky? So this is very important. Set up the baseline first, and then obviously you have to put in a lot of work and be patient, and definitely be realistic with the targets that you set. We see this especially with people who are just getting started, having a new website and then saying, well, why am I not appearing on the first page of the search results right away? And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of other sites which are trying the same and they've been around for a bit longer. So I think looking here at competitor sites and figuring out how they're doing, and then comparing again to create a baseline, where would a smaller new site start? What should I expect? What makes sense? What's realistic? Is also really good things to ask that we see that people sometimes miss. So the last step then, the number 4 on the next slide, is that this is something that needs to happen again and again. We see a lot of times people coming to us and saying, well, I did everything that I need to do for my site, and now I'm not seeing the results. And the reality is that it's exactly the same as having an offline store or any other business that you start. You can't just open the business, open the store, and do nothing. You need to constantly make changes, improve, track the sales, see if you can run some campaigns to attract some more customers. And the website is exactly the same. And so it's really important to regularly check in and essentially set up some kind of cadence. So every week you're checking, comparing to the baseline, making some changes, see if it improves, whether it's your customers or if it's for your own site. This is pretty critical habit to set up. So these are the 4 principles. First is translating your offline reasons for your business to exist into numbers that you track online. The second is to find the right tools to track those numbers online. The third is to establish a baseline against which you can compare. And finally, the fourth is to keep acting on it and comparing to the baseline to see if you've improved. So now that we know these 4 principles, let's look at how this could apply to an example. So on the next slide, you will meet our blogger. We created a travel blogger. Her name is Rosemary. You can see her on the next slide with her suitcase. She goes around and writes different articles about places she visited, and then also helps other people create trip itineraries for their own vacation or travels. And she writes about this on her WordPress blog. So the way that she can actually measure whether her website is working for her or not is to figure out how the way that she makes money translates to online metrics. So one way to do this is maybe you're recommending hotels or other services in the places that you visited, and you have affiliate links. So when people who are visiting your site click through to that other site, you make a small commission. So on the next slide, you see an example of this. And basically, when you're recommending something like a hotel or a restaurant in a particular place, that would then translate, if you click one more time, Shu, to pull up the next, to income from affiliate links. And so what makes sense to measure in this case online would be the CTR, the click-through rate on the affiliate links in her blog post. So this is one example of how to translate an offline activity into an online metric. Another example of this on the next slide is when you're offering, this is just an example of a link like this. On the next slide is an example of a different metric, which is, in this case, translating her activity from recommending and creating itineraries for other people to also to an online metric to track. So if you move one more shoot, here, when you're providing a custom trip itinerary, maybe that will be how many people have signed up to contact you to start this. So that will translate to form signups. So if you click through a couple more times, basically now you have 2 metrics that you can track. So the one was the CTR on the affiliate links, and the other one is how many people sign up via your contact form. So you have 2 very concrete things to track now from your website to know if your website is working for you or not. And then the next step is to break it down and figure out how do you track those things actually. So on the next slide is some example of the form, and the slide right after that shows how to break down the metrics. So here we talked about CTR on affiliate links, and one way that you can track this, you can set up goals in analytics. So goals are basically a thing that is achieved that is important to you, and you can say every time this happens, I want analytics to count this. And also in Search Console, which is another free tool from Google, you can look at which are your most popular posts and where are people clicking on these links or not. And then finally, look at the search queries. So how are people finding you and which pages they land on? And as a result, do they click on these affiliate links? So breaking down this metric, CTR on affiliate links, to these 3 numbers will then let you track it properly and figure out if you're doing better, if you're managing to increase. So yeah, so for the second metric that we had identified for this blog, that would be the forms. So in the next slide, it's an example of how to break this one down. If you don't mind switching over. Exactly. So here, again, analytics goals is something that is really useful. And with the new analytics, Google Analytics 4, it's actually possible to track this much more easily. Another thing that is really good to track here is if people come to the sign up page, but actually bounce off So this is a sign that there's something to improve there, make it clearer or simpler to set it up, or maybe faster to load. And then finally, looking at how people are finding this page via either top queries, or actually also looking how they navigate across the site. So this process is quite complicated in terms of understanding everything that's going on your site, and then breaking it down by different metrics, pulling it all from the different tools and creating a model that works for you. So we built something to help simplify that whole process, and that is Scikit, which you can meet on the next slide. It is Google's official WordPress plugin, and what we try to do is to essentially build everything that you need from Google directly into your WordPress dashboard. So it's for free. It is open source like any other plugin. So if you're more interested in how we're building it and what we're doing, you can obviously come in and look at our GitHub repository. It has information on the next slide. You will see this. It has information from many different services that we found out over the years are the most useful for people who have websites. So these are things like Search Console, which shows you how your people are finding you on search and how much traffic you're getting. It is also analytics, and as well as Tag Manager and Google Optimize. And of course, for people who want to make money from their content, we have added AdSense too. And we are working on many of these different features, adding more and more. We also really worked hard to make the setup as simple as possible. So if you play this video, you'll see that basically you just have to click a few buttons and Scikit will connect everything for you. So this is how it looks like in your dashboard. When you're activating Scikit, you will start inside your dashboard. And I don't know, Fabian, if you can play the video. Yeah, you will have to sign in with your Google account, and then after that, it will basically ask you, is it okay to connect these different products via API? The first step is to verify your site. So normally you have to edit your code, but here it's just a click of a button. Then you switch on the metrics, we add Search Console for you, and then the last step is also to add analytics. So as you can see from the user side, it's basically just clicking through a few buttons. You can choose an account or create a new one, and after that, you're done. So this is really, really simple. It saves a lot of time, and for people who don't really know how to edit their source code of their pages inside WordPress, it is extremely useful. So after you've done this, basically it might take a couple days. So essentially, as you can see on the next slide, you just need to wait for a moment. The data will probably aggregate over a month or two, a day or two. And then you'll be able to see what's going on with your site. And now I actually want to show you a few things inside Scikit. So show you how you can do this analyzing step. So on the next slide are a few questions that you can ask yourself in order to establish this baseline that we were talking about. For example, which are your most popular posts? How are people finding your site? And does this match my expectations of how people should find me? Are they searching for the things that I'm actually writing about? Or should I change this? And if I have specific pages that are popular, is this also matching my expectations? So I'm going to switch over to my screen now, and I will show you a few things about how Scikit looks and how it works. So hopefully everybody can see this. This is essentially inside your website. This is an example website that we have, and I wanted to show you with real data how this looks like. So you'll see that Scikit is, every time that you log into your site, basically you'll see this directly. There is different sections that we've organized to help you answer your most important questions that are related to your site. So the first and top question that we find is how your audience is growing. So people are asking, how much traffic am I getting? Where am I going? Where am I getting it from? And that's why we try to show you over time how this is developing, and also to show you how much traffic you're getting, for example, from search, or which are your other sources. So in this case, for this site, most of it comes from search, and some of it also comes from direct traffic. We also have some information about where are the people who have come to your site. So you can come here and see, oh, I'm getting most of my traffic from Ireland from organic search. So this is already giving you information where you need to work and what you can do in order to improve. Another thing that we've built here, which I think is really neat, is we combine information from Search Console and from analytics to create for you this funnel of how people are finding you and then what are they doing on the site. So the first part is how much times you showed up in the search results, so total impressions. Then the next part is clicks. So out of those, how many actually clicked through? And then out of those, what were the unique visitors? So as you see, this comes from Search Console, but this one comes from analytics. So we pull data from different places to create a simplified overview for you, and you can see it right there on your dashboard. And then if you set any goals, for example, that they should fill out a form, or that they should click on a particular button on your website, like I was talking about before, this would show up right here. So in essence, you have the entire funnel, how people find your site, go to your site, and then do the things that you want directly here, and you can keep track of that right there. Another thing that I was mentioning that is really useful is to know how people are actually finding you, and we pull that information from Search Console, so you can see it here directly inside your site. So these are the top queries. So how are people finding you? How many times did they click? How many times did they actually show up? And here you can sort by clicks or by impressions and understand what is going on. Are people finding me, but they're actually not clicking? Or what are the things that people find me the most and visit my site? This can help you understand how to manage your content. Another really useful thing that comes from analytics is then your top pages. So here you can see which are your most popular pages, which are getting the most views. And this comes from analytics. So you don't have to go to analytics, go to Search Console, take this information, mix it somehow in a spreadsheet. It's all here directly in your dashboard. And then you can compare, okay, this is my most popular page, and how are people finding me for that page? So then you can even search for this particular page, and you can see the information there for that page. So this is just this page, so you can see how much traffic this page is getting, where the traffic is coming from, what's going on, are people bouncing off of it a lot, how many visitors is it getting, and then also what kind of things people are typing to find this page. So you can go page by page and understand how your website is doing much better. And then finally, going back to what Ian was talking about, there is a dedicated section for speed and page experience. So you can see how your site is doing, and you can see those critical metrics that Ian was talking about directly in your WordPress dashboard for your homepage or for any other page. And of course, if you're making money, which in this case we switched on for this website with AdSense, you will be able to see how much money you're making over time, and also which are your highest earning pages. So this gives you a whole overview of how your site is doing, how much traffic you're getting, which are your most popular content, and how people find you at a glance. And you can use this in order to maintain your site and to improve it, to figure out what to write next, and which pages are popular. And of course, you can install this if you have clients, you can install it for them too. So instead of them calling you on the phone all the time and asking you what's going on, you can just tell them, go to the dashboard and look. So going back to step number 4, once you know what the key metrics are, it's really critical to check and take action on a regular basis. So the good thing about Scikit is that it's directly in your admin dashboard in WordPress. So every time you log in to edit a post or approve a comment or do something else on your site, it's right there. And you can just quickly look at the critical metrics and then keep going and making changes to your site. I hope this was a useful introduction. If you don't already have this, you can try to install it from the plugin repository directly inside your site, and we'll be pretty curious to hear your experience. We are very responsive and answering all the questions on the plugin directory page. Our support team answers within 24 hours. So if you have any questions at all, they'll be able to help you. And I'm happy to answer some questions now as well. So thanks for your time, and good luck with all of your websites.